Good morning. This is Tyler Dawn Rosenquist of the Ancient Bridge and ContextForKids.com. And I wanted to kind of update you. I had a dream a year ago. Yeah, I've been transitioning into children's ministry for a year and a half now, and I mostly just do kids now. I do character for adults because character can be any age level, and I'm such a bad example that as I learn things, I like to share the pain. Anyway, I had a dream about a year ago that I want to share because I want to give you the update on the dream and how I'm seeing the warning in the dream play out. Now, I'm not giving you a dream so you can have doctrine off it. That's not what dreams do. Dreams, for me, they provide course correction. Almost entirely to tell me what I'm doing wrong. And so, but I want to share this with you because I have concerns about what we're doing with our children, and they're not going to be the classic concerns. And I shared a social media status yesterday, and based on the response, you guys are seeing it too. A lot of you are seeing it too. I didn't get anyone disagreeing. I was actually kind of shocked that no one was defensive. So here we go. The dream was jarring. I was at the home of a relative, one known for her good works fostering and adopting kids in crisis, which they undertook once their kids were grown. It's important that you know this because I want everyone to see themselves in this dream and not to think that these are the types of people who were somehow purposefully neglecting kids. These are the kind of people that other people admire. Very few people reading this are going to measure up just to the baseline on this, and myself included. I arrived at their house on a bicycle and pulled up in the driveway to see a big van for the entire family and also a classic cherry red 1967 Mustang convertible. Now in real life, this family has never owned such a frivolous vehicle. But dreams often employ excessively liberal standards of creative license. I walked into the house and saw 4 children of various ages from about 8 to 15, and I had no impression whatsoever whether they were adopted, fostered, or biological, so that actually didn't play into what was going to follow. At this point, the dream abruptly shifted, and I was aware that I was traveling to a big family reunion. All the adults were going, and I saw absolutely nothing wrong with this. At one point, however, I noticed it was getting dark, and the bicycle I was riding was not equipped to operate in the darkness. So I turned around and went back to my relative's house. As I walked up to the house, I noticed the van was still there, but the Mustang was gone, sorry. I walked in the house expecting to find no one, but the kids were all still there. Not only were the kids still there, but they'd been intentionally left behind. Not out of callousness, but because no one had thought seriously about taking them. No one was coming back for them. There was food in the house, television, books, entertainment, even though in real life this family really has no television and lived very much the kind of life out in the country that most of my friends would consider ideal. Or many of my friends, not most. But these kids had been abandoned when the parents went off on their pilgrimage with other adults. The adults had made great preparations for their own journey, but the kids were hardly an afterthought. The kids were left with everything they would need to survive and enough to keep them busy. Like I said, there were 4 kids. One was absolutely heartbroken. He had so desperately wanted to go with the adults. I remember in the dream being just devastated. The others were simply resigned and accepting of having been abandoned. That's 3 out of 4 were resigned to having been abandoned. And 1 was heartbroken at not being taken seriously and taken along. I decided then and there to ditch my bike and take the kids in the van to where I was going. And suddenly my husband comes up alongside, and I said to him, "Everyone's already expecting you. You're late." And he turned to me and he replied, "I'm not late. I'm just not going to be there when they expect me. I'm lingering for the children." And I realized then that he had, in the dream, I realized he had a big enough vehicle for everyone, and that more importantly, this was not actually my husband I was speaking to. I've seen Messiah many times in my dreams, and I never have known him by sight. It isn't until he speaks that I recognize his voice. So, this dream profoundly affected me. Profoundly affected me. So I was just reading it off my blog there. So I know it seemed kind of dry, like I'm staring down. So that dream profoundly affected me, and that was in May of 2016. And I was very upset because I saw myself in that dream, even though I'm a teacher of kids. And at that point, the only thing I'd really done was been a Torah teacher of kids. I was teaching my kids the Torah portions from the ancient Near Eastern aspect. That's what I've been trained to do. That's my area of study. And my kids know some pretty crazy stuff and some really good stuff. And the problem was, now, when I wrote Context for Kids, Honor and Shame in the Bible, I mean, a sizable portion of the book is about Yeshua, and I took my kids through that book because they were my guinea pigs. When I wrote 10 Commandments and the Covenants of Promise, the end of the book is all about Yeshua and the renewed covenant. But, you know, I'm pretty typical of a parent in the Hebrew Roots movement, in that I came to faith when I was 29, and I absolutely fell in love with Jesus. I mean, the changes in my life were amazing. Signs and wonders. I mean, being freed from bondages. I've shared before that, you know, the first sign and wonder was that me, who swore like a sailor, 2 weeks after, people were saying, why don't you swear anymore? And I hadn't tried to stop swearing. It was a miracle. It was a sign and a wonder. It was a freedom from that crassness that he did not want representing him, you know, coming out of his mouth. And so I had some years in the church, and then I had some years when I was in the out-of-church movement, but during that time I was reading my Bible. Most of that time I fell away at the end because I had some anger over some things, and I got mixed up with some bad people in the out-of-church movement, and I just didn't know what to do. Excuse me. But I had those years of finding my first love, finding Jesus Christ. You know, and then when I came to Torah, I found out his name was Yeshua, and I found out that he didn't break God's laws in any way, and that he was there to show us how to live Torah. And people told me, well, Yeshua is Torah. And that's true, but what I did was I said, okay, well then I can push Yeshua to the side, and I can just study the Torah. And I did that for years. I did that for like 4 years. And at the end of 3 of those years, the Yana missionaries almost got me because I was so focused on the Torah that I had left behind Yeshua. I mean, it wasn't something I did on purpose. It wasn't even something I was thinking about. But I really thought that, okay, I have a firm foundation in Yeshua. Now all I need is Torah. But we can't stop focusing on Yeshua. Now, how does this weigh in with our children and with the problems I see in the Hebrew Roots movement? Well, I found out immediately upon ending my year of teaching the Torah portions with the kids that if I taught about anything other than the feasts and the Torah portions, that my viewership plummeted. Now, if I was interested in viewership, I'd just do the Torah portions again, because you know that would work. That would get my audience back. But instead, it really got me thinking, and it was very disturbing to me. And I thought, what's going on? Why are we as parents so enamored with the Torah portions and we've lost our first love? I'll tell you what's happened. We came out of the church where we learned to love Jesus. And then we just figured that love would stay fresh if, you know, we kind of left him in the dust. But you know, our kids never had those adulthood experiences or even childhood experiences where over time they learned to love Yeshua. They didn't. In most cases here, I'm looking at this. They didn't have the chance to develop that first love that we had. And yeah, you can say, oh, well, it wasn't with Torah. It wasn't the real Jesus. Yes, it was. And all the real ways that matter. I don't know about you, but Jesus Christ taught me the weightier matters of the law in the Presbyterian, Southern Baptist, and Pentecostal church. He taught me to take care of the poor, widowed, orphan, oppressed, imprisoned falsely, that kind of stuff. Jesus Christ taught me the importance of taking God's word to the ends of the earth. Jesus Christ taught me the importance of being generous and kind and loving. Jesus Christ taught me the importance of bearing the kind of fruit that's on the inside. Let me tell you what the Hebrew Roots movement taught me. That those things that I learned from Jesus Christ, things that are the character of God, the very character of God, are not as important as the external things that do nothing to change our inner character. The easy things, taking days off of work to do the feast, taking one day off a week for the Sabbath, eating kosher. You see, those are the easy things. It's really not that hard to get pork out of you. It's a pain, okay? And for a while, and shellfish I was already allergic, so all I had to get rid of was catfish. And you take a look at those and you really don't want to eat it anymore because that's the face that not even a mother could love. But yeah, I was doing the easy things. And I took such pride in doing the easy things. And that's one of the traps that Torah leads us into if we're not understanding that the Torah is only there to put outer boundaries around our external behaviors. So that once we've got those externals, then we can focus on becoming more and more conformed to the character of God, to being image bearers of God. But you see, we got so prideful about what we were doing that the Christians weren't. And they're not doing it because they're not keeping the feast and Sabbath because they hate God. They have been told, and I mean, if you were part of the Christian church, you know this too. In the integrity of their heart, they've been manipulated and scared into believing that doing those things means that they don't trust in the finished work of the cross. They're not doing these things because they don't love God. They're doing these things because they've been manipulated into thinking, by people who were themselves manipulated, by people who were manipulated and going back for about 1,500 years, a little over, okay? Bradley, come here. My dog's trying to drink, so you're having to listen to it. I need a drink. So we became very, very prideful about the externals that we were doing, and just a minute. And because we were very, very prideful, we taught we gave our kids the wrong emphasis. We taught them without even meaning to that it's more important to be keeping the feasts and the Sabbaths and to eat kosher and to tie on tzitzit and to have the mezuzah on our door, although those are important. I'm not going to say those aren't important. They are important. That they were more important, and we're neglecting the weightier matters, and we're not teaching them to develop character, and we're not teaching them why to develop character. I just read this book by N.T. Wright called The Day the Revolution Ended. Now, N.T. Wright is an Anglican bishop who is really kicking things up in Christianity in a big way. wow. And everybody at Wisdom and Torah is reading his books, and it's transforming our lives and our ministries. He talks about our vocation. Everybody says, what's my gift? What's my gift? What's my gift? Your gift doesn't matter. I'll tell you why. Because we have all been given the same exact vocation. Every man, woman, and child who is redeemed by the blood of the Lamb, who has come into covenant with God, has one job, one covenant vocation. And that is, frankly, to be an image bearer, to be a reflection of God on this earth, to be like God, so that when the lost people in the world who are drowning in hatred and sorrow, and so that when they see us, they see a reflection of God. Yeah, I watched the most amazing TED Talk, and if you're a social media friend of mine, it's posted on my page, but you can find it. It's from the granddaughter of Fred Phelps, the founder of Westboro Baptist Church. You know, the incredibly, if there's a one church organization who is more antichrist than any other, I think that 99.9% of Christianity would agree that it's the Westboro Baptist Church. They are the hateful, horrid organization that goes to soldiers' funerals and holds up signs saying things like, God loves dead soldiers, God hates fags. Just horrible, horrible, evil things that would make nobody on earth want to worship our God. Because they are not being image bearers, but they're claiming to be. Now what about us? We claim to be image bearers as soon as we put that Jesus fish bumper sticker on the back of our cars, or the one with the menorah, you know, and the whatever floats your boat, you know, especially if you do something like, I don't recommend this, like putting the Tetragrammaton in English on your license plate, unless you're the best driver in the world. And unless you are the kind of person who can get rear-ended and come out of the car and say, are you okay? And just be perfect while you're driving. See, I wouldn't have God's name anywhere on my car. If you've seen me drive, you know I try really hard, but you know why I don't want people to think I'm representing God when I'm driving. I really try hard. But, you know, I haven't killed anybody. That's the best I can say. But when we're claiming to represent God, we better be serious about it. And being serious about it isn't just what we do on our days off. You know, when we take days off work to celebrate the Sabbath and the feast, although that's important too. And if we are taking days off on the feast and Sabbath just so we can argue on social media, then we are not being image bearers. Because, you know, Yeshua, when he was rebuking people on the Sabbath, it was because they came after him first. He didn't go out, you know, picking fights. He's just healing somebody, and somebody decided to make a ruckus, and he decided to put him in their place. Okay? He didn't take the fight to people in the synagogue. They brought the fight to him in the synagogue, and he ended it. And they didn't say anything else. It was over. But if we're out there, you know, picking fights, if we're out there if we're not exhibiting love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control on social media, that's the fruit of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. If we are not exhibiting those things, and if we're just coming up for excuses why we don't have to, we are not being image bearers. Well, we are being image bearers, but whose image are we bearing? Okay? And what are we teaching our children? Our children are walking away. You know, and being exposed to Torah isn't changing that. They're leaving the house just like was going on, you know, when we were in the mainstream church. Children are leaving and they're going away. But, with us, it's for a different reason. They got Torah, but they never had that transformational experience with Yeshua. We really have to teach it to them and train it to them. We have to show them the love that we owe to Yeshua, the adoration and, worship that we owe to Yeshua, the Son of God. People say, oh, we shouldn't worship God. Well, what is worship? Praise. I'm sorry, but if my son died for you and you didn't spend any time praising him, or if you were coming to me, okay, so my son dies for you, okay? Something happened and he saved your life. And he died for you. And you're coming to me with a laundry list of wants. But you are purposefully not praising you're not mentioning to me, thank you, because, your son died for me and I can never repay you. And I hope you will forgive me for getting in the situation where, your son, had to save my life and da 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 da. And I'm not talking about, but Yeshua saved our lives. He saved my life. Oh, and everything. I'm not going to deny him anything. I'm not going to deny him my praise. I'm not going to do it and then say, well, God, I'm only in relationship with you because he did this for me, but let's not talk about him. Let's talk about me. Let's talk about you. It's almost like, we're uncomfortable with what Yeshua did for us on the cross. We don't want to talk about it. That's what it sounds like. But, we got to talk about it all the time because that was the turning point in history, and our kids need to know that was the turning point in history, and that is what I'm trying to do with Context for Kids this year. And I'm starting in Matthew chapter 1. There's going to be 6-7 weeks spent just in Matthew chapter 1 because there are so many things there that kids need to learn. Probably going to take the rest of my life to get through, the Gospels. If I live long enough, we'll see. We'll see. But I don't want to leave anything about our Savior out. Anything. I want them to know everything because Yeshua is the point of the Torah. The Torah was given to us so that we would have, after a while, we would just know how to live according to God's laws. We wouldn't have to think about it. And it was supposed to leave us not self-satisfied that we were doing these things because we should do these things. It's nothing to be, pat myself in the back, I'm keeping God's laws. Most of them are real easy to keep. And mainstream Christians, they keep almost all of them that can be kept. How many of the laws are for priests? How many of the laws are for, only at the temple? You take away all those and you don't even have half the laws left. And of those, Christians will violently defend most of them. Okay? There's just a few they've been taught not to keep. They've been taught not to keep them. I was taught not to keep them. You were probably taught not to keep them. And I didn't keep them in the integrity. I just didn't even know they existed. I didn't know that Pentecost was actually, whatever. And I had read the Bible cover to cover over and over and over again. People sometimes think that God showed them Torah because they were actually deserving. I don't know about you, but when I got Torah, let me tell you what I had just gotten done doing. And I had just gotten done taking a year off of God. And I'm serious, this is shameful. And deciding to just waste my life playing online video games, World of Warcraft. I played World of Warcraft for like a year. Just absolutely, sorry, my back. I played World of Warcraft online practically 24/7 for a year. Total addict. And then one day I finally just realized that you're an addict. And I took my little authenticator card that meant that you made it impossible for anyone to hack my account. And you can't log into the account without it. And I took it out in the driveway and I smashed it with a hammer. So I could never play again. Told my guild goodbye, said I'm sorry, but a man cannot serve two masters. And man, I'm not even serving two. I'm not even trying. I've been playing this game. This has been my master for a year now. I gotta go. I love my kids. I love my husband. I gotta get back to showing them that. And So I'd done this, and so that's what I'd spent the year doing. And a few months later, it wasn't like I was living that much better or anything, but God tells me, this is one of the outer voice moments that I hate, because it never tells me anything that I want to hear. It was, you want to explain all those verses to me that say that you can eat pork? And it wasn't a mean voice, and it wasn't sarcastic, and it wasn't anything. It was really genuinely, you want to explain this to me? And I tried, I went into that, because I knew the verses. I used them. And they didn't say what I thought they said anymore, and I was sick. And, I could smell the bacon in the house because I had a big pan. It was Sabbath morning. Of course, I didn't know that. And it was the day before Pentecost. It's the day before Shavuot. And we got a house full of pork and everything, and it's a Sabbath, and I didn't know it. I'm just freaking out. So why did God reveal Torah to me and not to some of the people who are in the mainstream church, who are doing great works with orphans and widows and the poor and the oppressed, and they're in the prisons? Well, I have a theory. Maybe I needed it more because my behavior was not up to theirs. Maybe they're like light years ahead of me, and God said, this woman needs the Torah more than they do. I find something lacking in her. She's not more deserving than the Torah, as a matter of fact. Dang, she is not as, deserving as some other people, but she needs it more. But all that happened because of Jesus Christ. I wouldn't have given up World of Warcraft for anything other than Jesus. I wouldn't even give it up for my family. I was so self-absorbed and selfish. That happened because I had a first love to go back to, Jesus Christ. And that day he showed me his name was Yeshua HaMashiach. But he was still Jesus Christ. All the character that was important to me when I was in the church that I had walked away from was his character. I had that first love to fall back on. That rescued me out of that horrible addiction, where I actually decided to care about people. Without Jesus, it wouldn't have been there. Are we giving our kids that same first love to fall back on? Are we teaching our kids about Jesus? Are we teaching him about the love and respect and adoration that he deserves, that we owe him? Can we really worship the Father if we ignore the Son? You see, that wouldn't work with me. Would that work for you? If your son died for me, and I would come over to your house, talk to you, and never mention him? Would you want to be in the room with me if I never mentioned him? You know what? Right here. Thank you, Adonai. Thank you, Adonai. For Yeshua. For introducing me to him as Jesus Christ. I remember the day you did, and you purposefully did it as Jesus Christ. I was trying to become a Jew. I was trying to go to the synagogue. You stopped me dead in my tracks and turned me around to Jesus, and I thank you. Thank you so much that you gave me that first love before I came to Torah, because I know my character, and I know that if I'd come to Torah first, that would have been it. There would have been no Yeshua. I doubt if I would have ever, but you knew me. You knew that I needed Jesus Christ. And I know that my kids need him. So, anyway, we have a problem. We need to undo it. And I hope I haven't offended anybody, but this is a wake-up call. Parents, don't neglect Yeshua. Kids need him. So, that's it for this week. And I love you. And I'm praying for kids. Honestly, I'm praying for their families. They're the ones going to do the heavy lifting. Like my dream said, I believe Yeshua's lingering for the children. That means that there's time and that we need to get them prepared. They will be adults. I believe with all my heart. You take care. I love you.